Hey, let's catch up some Spurs news and notes and give our takeaways from CP3 and Harrison Barnes' introduction, to San Antonio.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome back to Locked On Spurs right here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. You made the wise choice in subscribing to Locked On Spurs. Keep on doing that, leaving those comments over the YouTube page. We appreciate it. We are your first and only stop for all things San Antonio Spurs. Subscribe wherever you get your favorite podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Ken's 5 Plus app. The list goes on and on. Hey, what are we talking about today? We're going to be looking at some quick Spurs news and notes. Then bringing our guest, my colleague at Ken's 5, Vinnie Vinzetta. He's going to be joining me as he and I attended the introduction conferences of CP3, Chris Paul, and Harrison Barnes. And we're going to give our takeaways. What stood out? What did they say? What did CP3 have to say to my question about the fans? Yeah, you guys. And so much more right here on Locked On Spurs. So we got plenty for you. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. You got to get that Game Time app right now. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. All right, let's get to some Spurs news and notes that you may have missed. And pretty much a big one, at least if you're into Spurs gear and Spurs merch and all that good stuff. There's going to be a new Spurs fan shop coming to the Spurs practice facility complex, the Victory Capital Performance Center, as soon as the start of the new season. Now, it's going to be a brand new design. It's going to be located on the first floor of the Performance Center. It's going to be open 7 days a week, almost all year round, barring any other issues. But some renderings of what it might look like and what it likely will look like once it opens and you guys are going to get their merch. So let's check out a photo of the Spurs let me use and to share that with you guys. And there you have it. Not too bad, huh? Looks like it's going to have all the bells and whistles. And speaking of bells and whistles, it's going to have interactive displays. It's going to mark certain great moments in team history. It looks very spacious. Again, this is just an artist rendering that the Spurs allowed me to use. And yeah, it looks like just more ways for you to go and rep that Spurs gear that you got on right now. Heads up, too. The fan shop over at the Frost Center is actually closed for a while. They're doing renovations because they're also going to upgrade a lot of the features in there as well. So when you'll be going to the games at home next season, expect that new fan shop to have a brand new vibe. But there you have it. Construction has begun. And like I said, it's looking for a target opening day of opening night for the Spurs 2024-25 season. Not too bad, huh? Can't wait to go check that out. By the way, the new merch of the month will be coming up soon right here on Locked On Spurs, so keep an eye on that. But yeah, not too bad, not too bad. I like it. I cannot wait for it to open the doors and get some Spurs gear. In other Spurs news, the Spurs wrapped up the Sacramento, California Classic. They finished it 1-2. Yeah, they beat Team China to close out the their slate of games. The rookies, Harrison Ingram and Stephon Castle. Castle had the best performance of the two games he played. He led the Spurs with 18.6 rebounds and 5 assists. Harrison Ingram had 16 points and 10 rebounds, and they beat Team China 89-67. So you can read more about that over at kens5.com/Spurs right now. We'll likely discuss that in an episode of Locked On Spurs coming up soon. In other Spurs news, rookie Juan Nunez, that's the Spurs second round pick, has been replaced on Team Spain. He's no longer with them. So on the Olympic squad, he will not be playing. He'll be sticking around with the training camp for Team Spain, but that's about it. Why? Alex Abrines, a veteran of Team Spain, took his place after coming off injury. So he got that guy, get the clearance to come back and play. They punched their ticket to the Olympics. Yep, Nunez is out. And by the way, he'll be playing with Barcelona next year. So he looks like he will be a drafted stash, at least for the moment, and he will have an NBA out clause. There you have it, some quick Spurs news and notes. Coming up next, Vinnie Vinzetta, my guest. We're going to be discussing Harrison Barnes, CP3. We were there. We got a chance to talk to them. What did we take away? What were some of the key phrases, sound bites that we liked? And how will they fit in San Antonio? That's next right here on Locked On Spurs. Hey, but first I want to talk to you about Game Time. You want to go to gametime.co right now. It is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. They got killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats, the lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. They got it all there. They even have event cancellation protection, job loss protection, flash zones. I mean, pick something they got there. You're going to enjoy it. Even have last-minute deals where you can save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever you need. Those all-in pricing, well, you could toggle this feature to show the total up front so you didn't get any surprise fees at checkout. Lowest price guarantee, well, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. You can find a lower ticket price. And the Game Time ticket coverage, your purchase covered by the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. What more do you need? Get that app right now. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time and other tickets that you might need. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for 20% off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, just, write this down, right? Or lock it into memory. You want to get this code, LOCKEDONNBA. That code will get you $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Hey, I want to talk about Mudslingers Drive-Thru Coffee. Go there right now if you're in San Antonio, 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. Open every single day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. That's located in the 281 and 1604 area. Take a drive out there. If you need a coffee, you need dairy alternative drinks, if you need energizing drinks, if you need their signature drink like the Mudslinger coffee, whatever you want, they have it for you. Even mini donuts. They got a great menu, great staff, proud local sponsor of Locked On Spurs, and a proud community member in San Antonio, serving San Antonio the best drinks in town. Go there right now. Hey, they have a line called the Lightning Bolt series. Those drinks you could hear, they charge you up throughout the day, get you going and whatnot. They even have one in honor of Victor Wembanyama called the Alien, which is very delicious. But heads up, they're going to start using Lotus Energy. That's 7 power plant extracts mixed in with a drink, and it gives you the same effects as a Red Bull, but again with 7 power plant extracts, flexible to make new drinks for you, for all their customers. I mean, they got it there for you. But if you do want Red Bull, they'll still have it for you. Just got to ask for it. But the default will be Lotus Energy. 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. Go there right now, San Antonio. Follow them on social media at Mudslinger SATX. Open every single day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Go there right now because life is too short for bland coffee.
A Jedi uses the Force. To subscribe to Locked On Spurs, pass on what you have learned.
Well, look who's back, everybody. He is my colleague at Ken's 5, Vinnie Vinzetta. Follow him on X at VVinzetta. You want to do that right now. Vinnie, thanks for coming back on Locked On Spurs, because the last time you were on Locked On Spurs was kind of like a quasi-appearance, because we recorded something after the draft, but we had a lot of tech issues, so I was able to just take out the audio. But I'm glad now everybody can see you and your smiling face.
Hey, I think it was in the lobby there of the Spurs practice facility. Crazy logistics that night for draft night, but I will give a lot of props to you for getting that done. And Spurs fans, as you know, Jeff, they sold out and came to that draft viewing party.
Goodness.
I didn't know what to expect, maybe a couple of hundred. There might have been a few thousand on the little plaza lawn area there. It was crazy cool to see how many people came out to watch those first-round selections that night.
Yeah. You were smart. You got there super early, found yourself a nice parking spot. You were good to go. I had to park so far away that Vinny had to drive me to my car.
Well, tell everybody how far away that was.
For those of y'all in San Antonio, I had to park in the La Cantera parking lot, the mall, basically. Nowhere near. Shopping. I could have done shopping, yes. Nowhere near the facility. It was a considerable walk. Now, the good news is, for me, though, is that I'm an adopted New Yorker, so that wasn't too bad for me. I kind of used to it. But when I told Vinny after the event was over that, hey, I got to walk back, well, Vinny says, well, where are you parked? I go, over there at the mall in the area in front of the store, Macy's. He goes, I'll give you a ride. And it wasn't until you gave me the ride back, Vinny, where I realized, oh, wow, that was a long walk I did. Like, I was like, geez, I really walked that far. But see, Vinny's always there. He was like Superman for the day. He saved me a lot of sweat because it was very hot that day.
Well, I could have made you walk that night, but decided to play the good guy card and help about that.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Yeah. See, round of applause for Vinny. Yeah, here you go. Round of applause for Vinny. Give him, the best way to do this is follow him on X at Vinzetta. Do that right now. Hey, so why is Vinny here? Well, he and I were able to attend the introduction conferences for CP3, Chris Paul, and Harrison Barnes. Very good conferences. We got to get to know them a little bit better. But we're going to start off with CP3. Now, Chris Paul, he made it very clear, Vinny, that he is here to play basketball, not to coach, when a lot of Spurs fans were thinking the opposite. Oh, he's here to mentor, coach, and then be off on his way. For me, that really stood out. What did you think about that remark he made?
Well, yeah. I mean, how many times did he say in that press conference, I'm here to hoop. I want to play. I'm not happy when I'm not playing. I want to play. And so he hammered that point home countless times. Look, I think we all understand there's this idea that he can be kind of a floor coach and a floor general and kind of pass along his ways to a lot of the younger guys on this roster. I mean, for years at every previous stop, one of the things I always heard Charles Barkley say was that he's the best leader in the NBA. So that's one of the aspects you love about having him here. Nobody is foolish enough, I think, to hopefully believe, because it's not true, that he's a coach. Like we hear that LeBron is actually the head coach of the Lakers. He was coach after coach after coach fired. CP3 is not going to get Greg Popovich fired. So coach, he's a floor general, leader, passionate about the gig. So a guy that will be out there coaching them on the floor. But a coach, no, he wants to hoop with the Spurs and see what maybe this can develop into this season.
Yeah, he didn't shy away, though, from saying that he's okay with helping these guys get better. He didn't say, he said, because I embrace it, I see it as a responsibility. But again, as Vinny just noted, he repeated, I'm here to play and get wins. Made it very, very clear. Also interesting, too, during that introduction with CP3, he, in my opinion, I think he showed that dog in him. He showed that he would do whatever it takes. Now, I asked him about that. I said, hey, Chris Paul, fans are excited for your arrival. What can they expect? Off right away, he said, look, Spurs fans, you guys enjoyed a lot of success in here. I don't need to tell y'all how to rally behind the team. But within that response to me, Vinny, he said, Spurs fans, excuse me, because I may act a certain way on the court, but it's only to get wins. That just showed me how competitive, hyper, ultra, I don't want to lose mentality that he's going to bring to San Antonio. And frankly, Vinny, I think this young Spurs team needs that type of dog on the court.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, a lot of people bag on Chris Paul for being known for State Farm commercials more than anything else. But the dude is competitive. Like, he doesn't have to be playing NBA basketball at this age, but he is still, because like you just said, Jeff, he has that dog in him. So, I mean, he said in that social media video he put out before he arrived in San Antonio on Tuesday that I'd have never dreamed in a million years that I'd play for Coach Pop in this organization. So he's all over this opportunity. I mean, he understands the opportunity here. Now, I don't think anybody's trying to suggest that he's going to guide them to the top of the West standings, but he's here because he thinks that there are some things that can get done. Like, he's not here to waste his time. That's what I took away. Like, Chris Paul is ready to get to training camp. He's ready to get to practice. Yeah. He's ready to get to the regular season and play some basketball and kind of see what can develop with what he has around him. So, yeah, he's all business. He's serious.
Yeah. Harrison Barnes, we'll get to him in a bit. He even said that CP3 and him already worked out together as Spurs. Yeah. So you're ready for the new season to begin. Vinny, what about you? What stood out for you from CP3's introduction conference?
Just that he's a pro's pro. I mean, he's a true professional. He understands every aspect of this game, whether it's a championship contender or a team that's maybe in the middle of the pack or a team that's rebuilding. I mean, he understands what's going on here, and he's excited to get out there and see what can happen with these guys. One thing I took away, and I know we're going to talk about Harrison Barnes, but one thing that both CP3 and Harrison Barnes said. They said that as much as they came here because of the prospects with Victor Wembanyama, I mean, that's obvious. Right. They both also said that they're here because of the organization. Like, even though the Spurs haven't done much winning the last 5 years, they're still considered kind of one of the gold standards for the way things get done. So they're here because of, what do we always say, the Spurs way.
Right.
I think they understand the culture and the way things are done here. Some people laughed at me on social media and said, no, they're here because of Wemby only. Trust me. But I think there's something also to the idea that they're here because of what has happened here in the past and what can possibly happen here again. But he's just a guy, I think, that people respect. I've seen some people on other social media sites post that he can be a locker room killer and kind of a guy that tears things apart. I don't really know that I've ever heard that or seen that. I've always thought he was a team guy and kind of understands his role and wants to show leadership. So I don't know if you have a thought on that, but I've never viewed CP3 as a guy that kills an operation. I've always viewed him as a positive guy.
Yeah. Now you have heard, and just even recently, DeAndre Jordan, his Clipper teammate back in the day, talk with Paul George's show on YouTube. And they were talking about CP3 to San Antonio, and DeAndre Jordan made it very clear. Chris Paul will rub players the wrong way. He will. His own even teammates. And he said especially he's going to impact younger players who never played with that type of, again, that dog mentality that I ain't going to lose, that we're not going to lose. But he said eventually he realized when he was younger that he should have appreciated that more. And I think maybe that might happen in San Antonio, because for the last few years, Vinny, the Spurs have not had that type of floor in general. There's only so much that Pop can do from the sidelines, training camp, practice, but he can't be on the court. Now you have somebody on the court that's going to be barking at his own teammates, not in a bad way, not to call them out, but you just get them to do their best. Vinny, I haven't seen that type of player in a Spurs uniform on the court maybe since Mario Elie, Avery Johnson, that ilk. And I think this young team needs that type of kick in the butt sometimes, because last year we saw so many times just young mistakes that things could have been corrected. Now you have that person on the court that can do that. Vinny, your thoughts?
Yeah, what's wrong with that is my first thought. I mean, there's not a thing in the world wrong with that. I mean, back in the later Big Three days, I remember countless times when the Spurs at home weren't playing that well. And if I can say this, excuse me, Tony Parker would get pissed off.
Yeah.
And he seemed to be a guy that would bark and inspire, and all of a sudden he would have a mini run on his own of 6 to 8 points. So what's wrong with that? Not a thing in the world. So I like that CP3 has that dog in him, as you say, and might rub people the wrong way occasionally, but it's all about winning. Yeah. It's some tough love. I mean, does Pop sometimes rub his players the wrong way?
Pop, for sure.
Because he wants them to be their best and reach for their best. And I would think people like Sohan and Keldon, however long he's here now, and Devin Vassell and Trey Jones, they would appreciate when a guy like Chris Paul lights you up and says, this is not good enough. We've got to take this a little bit higher. So I would only view that as a great thing, like you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think this is exactly what this young Spurs team needs. Now, he said a lot of good things about it, from the culture, as Vinny noted, to, thanking the fans, as far as saying, hey, I know you got this team's back. You said even he saw that this Spurs fan base even is cheering for the young Spurs right now, despite X amount of years already of missing the playoffs. So he said he hit all the notes. He hit everything. But I want to ask you this question now. It was brought up on San Antonio Sports Star by former Ken's Five's very own Joe Reinagle. He brought up a point. I want to bounce this off you. He said that CP3 really doesn't really advance the rebuild. He said, why pretty much use him for a year if he's not going to be with the rebuild till its conclusion? So in Joe's opinion, he thinks that, why even bother with CP3? Bring in somebody who's going to be with the team until they're out and back on the mountaintop of the NBA. What do you think about that take? He's not the only one who said that. There's been a lot of Spurs fans that have been saying, like, great, a Band-Aid player, whoop-de-doo, rental.
I think that from a debate standpoint, that it's a fair point. I think it's a legitimate argument, but I also think your argument about when's the last time we had a guy with that dog in him like a Mario Ellie or Tony Parker, I think that's a legit debate too. So I don't know. I think there's merit on both ends. I mean, it's sports. It's always going to be a hot, debatable topic. But yeah, 1 year, $11 million, whatever it is, it's clear that he's being brought here to help. I guess Joe said, why only for 1 year if he's not going to be here for the end of it? Well, he's here to simply help, I think, advance it, to help push it forward, and to mentor guys and see how he can help these guys grow.
Yeah. And who's to say that CP3 may not stick around after the year? Sure, if he's a rental, he's a rental. So be it. Bye-bye. It's just 1 year. And I think that's where I'm okay with it. It's not like, remember the Pau Gasol deal back in the day? I mean, it wasn't to that level. Thank goodness. But you look at the Spurs have some success. If they're pushing teams or being competitive, something that Chris Paul noted in his opening remarks, saying he wants this team to be competitive. He said they will be competitive. So, you never know. Maybe Pop can pitch him something new, to stay around. We don't know yet. But as of now, he is a Spur, and I think he's going to help, just as you mentioned, push the rebuild faster with player development in that aspect for Castle. For Trey Jones, yes. Even if Blake Wesley's still around, he seems to be the odd man out right now in the point guard spot if he's stuck around. So we don't know yet. But as of right now, the entire young Spurs roster are going to benefit from CP3 and Harrison Barnes in just a few seconds. But overall, great introduction conference. Vinny, any final thoughts before we shift gears to talk about Harrison Barnes?
No, just that we didn't know how long the press conference was going to go, and CP3 seemed primed to answer a lot more questions, but suddenly Spurs PR was like, okay, that's it. Thank you, Chris. And he looked at the microphone and said, oh, okay. So I think he was happy. He would have been happy to stay around a little bit longer, but the Spurs have their way, and they want to get those guys in and out. But I agree with you that it was a very professional press conference, said all the right things, and we got a great taste of who Chris Paul wants to be in the silver and black.
Yeah. One thing that I regret not asking is his jersey number. I regret not asking that.
Oh, yeah.
I think that, because I thought during press conferences, when you're introducing new players, you hold up the team jersey, the new jersey, and that did not happen.
I heard some locker room talk that they had mentioned that's not going to happen today. There's going to be none of that. So obviously that issue is still out there between he and Keldon. What's going to happen with the number 3?
Yeah, well, we'll see. I wish I would have broached it, maybe made light of it or something. But I think Keldon will be okay with it.
I mean, typically,
I hope so.
Typically in sports, the younger player does kind of step aside and give the veteran. Isn't that typically how it works?
That's typically how it works, yes. I mean, you can even go further than that. Look what Bruce Bowen did for LMA. Bruce Bowen's jersey is retired, number 12 at the Frost. Mm-hmm. But LMA came on board, and he asked Bruce Bowen, do you mind if I wear it? And Bowen was fine with it, hey, Keldon, take a page out of Bruce Bowen's book right there. Be okay. Let the old man wear number 3, and we'll see what happens from that point. But no, overall, I think great conference. Glad to get a chat with him just for a second and whatnot. But hey, we're not done talking. Up next, we're going to be discussing Harrison Barnes. What were our takeaways from his introduction press conference? That's coming up right here on Locked On Spurs.
Hey, this is Hot Rod.
And I'm RC from the Cybertron Spurs.
And you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
And we're now back right here on Locked On Spurs with Vinnie Vinzetta. You see that X name on your screen. Make sure to follow it right now at V. Yeah, exactly. You see, even Vinny's helping you out there right there. Follow him on X at V Vinzetta. Do that right now. You need to. He helped me out. He gave me a ride back to my car, where it was parked miles away.
I can hold you hostage now. I like it.
Yeah. He has one over on me. He has the leverage on me. God, I hate when people have leverage on me. But nevertheless, why is the Vin Dog here? Well, we're talking about the newest Spurs, CP3 and Harrison Barnes. In the last segment, we talked about CP3, what our takeaways from the press conference. And now it was Harrison Barnes' turn. Harrison Barnes, this guy's a workman. And what stood out for me, even before he became a Spur, was he is an Iron Man. It's rare in today's NBA you have players that play a full season or at least close to it. Harrison Barnes plays 82 games. He is reliable. He'll put his hard hat on. He'll go to work, and he'll drop you 20-something points, X amount of threes, 10-plus rebounds. He is a worker kind of lunch pail player this Spurs team needs. What were your thoughts from the conference?
Well, his press conference wasn't near as entertaining as CP3's.
No, it was very professional.
Well, I was going to say, I think that goes back to the kind of player that you just described that he is. Just puts in the work, puts on the hard hat, and he's not looking for limelight. He's just kind of a foundation piece. He's a guy that will scrap and do work on both ends of the floor. I think for his career, if I saw it right, I think he averages double digits, right around 14.
Oh, yeah.
A game for his career. So love him as a guy that doesn't need all the limelight and all the star status, just gets in there and gets things done. And he mentioned, if I have my notes right in his press conference, that the one thing you can't do is fast track this thing in reference to rebuilding this Spurs. So he understands that it's going to take some work to be put in to figure this thing out, but just like him for sure as a chess piece to help mentor these young guys. I mean, I think he joked at one point, I think the question was, you're kind of one of the veterans of the veterans, and he sort of laughed at that, but or maybe that was Chris Paul, but I think it was Harrison Barnes.
It was Harrison Barnes. It was Barnes, yeah.
Who talked about being a veteran. So I think he understands his role, and I think CP3 mentioned too that there was no conversation, there was no selling point. There was no pitch that Pop needed to do for him. And I think that's the same thing, too, for Harrison Barnes. I mean, it didn't take I'd be shocked if it took any real conversation to get him here. He's a guy that just understands what needs to happen here and can appreciate what the Spurs are trying to do.
Yeah. Well, he brought up a good point. He may have just been, jokey about it, but I do agree with him. He said the Spurs should be leading the league in lob dunks next year.
He did say
and that is absolutely true. I will be shocked if the Spurs are not number one or at least top three in that department with CP3 and Wemby. Yeesh. I mean, that's a deadly combo there. But as far as Barnes' his intro remarks, I liked it. I walked away from that thinking, you know what? This is a guy that's going to be one of those quiet leaders on the court that, not to Tim Duncan leadership, but very kind of similar to that. It's not going to be screaming and yelling. It's going to be very, how can I say this? Not nurturing, but very stern, very matter of fact, very, hey, whoever, Sohan, you messed up this, whatnot. Not going to be demonstrative or nothing. Also, I think he's going to be a great locker room presence for this young team. Put your arm on my shoulder. I'll show you, what's going on, how to handle the situation. And for the Spurs, they got now a reliable forward on there. He's consistent from the three line. He's going to spread that floor open for Wemby. He can do it from the three line. He can do it from he's a 3-level scorer. Get to the rim. Great plug piece. I don't see either Barnes or CP3 needing some sort of time to mesh well. I think they're, especially Barnes, he could be plug and play, ready to go. Vinny, your thoughts?
He's that kind of a guy. He fits that mold of everything you just said. Can play inside and out and can make shots around all parts of the basketball court and knows how to play defense. And he's a champion too. I mean, he's got a ring. He understands the work that has to happen when you get into March and have the opportunity to play into April and to May and those sorts of things. So he's a guy that gets that. And sometimes a player can be introduced and have a press conference where there's all sorts of headlines. There weren't really any headlines from his, and I like that. It was nothing that stands out, and you'll like that. You understand he's that kind of a guy. Maybe the press conference was unimpressive, but he's a guy that is just under the radar, and night in and night out, there's no drama with this guy. He just goes out there and does the job that he's asked to do. And he's a quiet piece that I'm excited. I mean, he's always shown up. He's a guy who shows up, and he said that if we can stay healthy is the key here. When you have somebody that's my age, and then he joked that he wouldn't say Chris Paul's age, but if those two guys can stay healthy together, it's gonna be exciting to see. work with Wemby and Vinnie Vinzetta and the other players.
All right, so let's put a bow on this, and let me ask you: do the additions of CP3 and Barnes push this team to a play-in spot? Maybe just miss it by that much, or dare I say, a 1-6 playoff spot? Can this young Spurs team mesh with those two veterans, and then Wemby's explosion on the NBA? Is this enough to push them to beyond the regular season?
You got to feel like the West is still completely stacked. So I'm not prepared to say 1-6 yet.
Okay.
But I am prepared to say that at the very least, they'll be in the play-in tournament to get in that top 8.
Yeah.
I feel like there's not enough there to say that they're going to make a really deep run, but there's enough there to make a leap where they're at least in the playoff conversation. And who knows? I mean, it's not like we're trying to break in 2 rookies in CP3 and Barnes, and so maybe the mix and mesh happens a lot quicker and much smoother than people think. But still, they're looking up at the West. I mean, it is just a stacked conference. So I'll go as far as to say they'll be in the play-in tourney and maybe have a shot to sneak in that top 8.
Yeah, I can tell you this much: there ain't gonna be no 10+ losing skid as we saw last year. With this young Spurs team, no way Barnes and CP3 allows that to happen on their watch, let alone the young Spurs who don't want to go through that again. So Wemby too. But I think the Spurs, for me, what I have caution is in the West, it took about 45, 44 games just to get into the play-in, just to be a play-in candidate. So you're talking, what, a 20+ game win total leap next year?
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine about that. That's a really good point for you. You're like, can they really go from 22 to 42? That is kind of a big ask, for example.
Yeah, that is a big one. And would I be surprised? No, especially with Wemby in uniform. He alone is going to at least get you to have that opportunity to make that big 20+ game win total leap next season. But my goodness, and we're not even forgetting this, that Dallas got stronger with Klay Thompson. Okay. Denver might have a chip on their shoulder. So there's 2 spots already. Minnesota is going to be Minnesota. They're coming. They're not going anywhere. Then you got Ja Morant and the Grizzlies with his return. Zach Edey's added. So they got more size on that roster now. All right. There's 4. Then we can't forget about the OKC Thunder. They're still there. There's 5 already. Now here are the Spurs still. They're still looking outside. Okay, now they got one more spot. Who could that be? Who could be? I think the only team that's slipping out are the Clippers. Probably they're probably going to slip out. And I don't know where the Phoenix Suns will stand. So there's another wild card in all this. And then there's the team in their own backyard, Vinny, the Houston Rockets, that were nipping at a play-in spot, and they just missed it by that much. So yeah, the Spurs got to work. And then DeJounte Murray goes to New Orleans. He joins Zion. Yeah. Who knows if Brandon Ingram's still there, but if he's still there, that's a formidable team. So yeah, Vinny, based on that, I mean, yeah, it might be difficult for the Spurs.
I mean, the answer to that question for me, with all the things I just said, I'm always going to start with the West is still stacked.
Yeah,
so
it is.
That's the big one.
It is. Yeah, it's still stacked. But I got them sniffing a play-in spot. I think they'll be fighting for one at the end of the day. And that's just, I'm just thinking about that win total leap. My goodness, that's huge. That's going to be
impressive. It's going to be a big ask, but it would be impressive.
It would be impressive. All right, we're done talking. We want to hear from you. What did you think about CP3 and Harrison Barnes' first words as the newest members of the Spurs? You let Vinny know on X at Vinzetta. You let me know by simply checking out the Locked On Spurs YouTube page or by subscribing to it on iTunes, Spotify, or the Ken's 5 Plus app. Always, there'll be some way for you to find us. Just look at your favorite podcast platform. You'll see us there. Download it. Hey, Vinny, I know you're talking about Spurs today with me right now, but what's going on in the world of sports, locally, nationally? What do you got working?
Well, I did a sit down with Karen Aston, the head coach of UTSA women's basketball. About to start her 4th season here this fall. Her first season, I think, was 7 wins, and they went to 13 wins to 18 wins. So they are a program on the rise and trending up. So definitely excited about that. I've got I've got a big piece on that coming out this week. Also breaking down that UTSA football schedule. They open at Kennesaw State. That's a who cares game. But the next 2 weeks, weeks 2 and 3, really looking at those. On the road at Texas State, the Bobcats want to really get the Roadrunners, and then on the road for UTSA at Texas. So a tough start out of the gate. So we're going to break down their schedule here in the next week or so. So just getting ready. Football season is on the way, and it will take over before we get to, just like that, we'll be at Spurs training camp.
Yep. See, everything's coming at you fast and furiously, but we'll have you covered over at Kens5.com, Kens5 TV, here on Locked On Spurs. We'll have everything covered silver and black. And for anything outside of silver and black, you want to go to Vinnie. Make sure to follow him on X at Vinzetta. By the way, I still got to give you one more kudos, one more thumbs up.
Okay.
Okay, so everybody, like I said, last week, Vinny and I technically did a Locked On Spurs, but there were some video issues that just glitches. It's technology, right? So, but it would have been interesting because during that video, that lost footage, Vinny took the reins, and I was watching him because Vinny was giving me little pointers how to be a lot more presentable on camera. So, Vinny, appreciate that.
Well, it worked. It's helped you out.
Well, I don't know yet because we had we had tech issues that day. And by the way, good on you, dude. You were a trooper. You tried to salvage that video. You really did.
Put my best foot forward.
You did, and it just I was like, man, this is not gonna work. But we got the audio in there. Nevertheless, Vinny still technically made an appearance at Locked On Spurs. See, Vinny's a man of the people. He really is.
Man of the people.
He really is. And to follow the man of the people, you see it on your screen at Vinzetta on X. Hey, we'll be back tomorrow talking all things Spurs, silver and black. I believe we have Hector Ledesma, yes, coming back to wrap us up here. Yep, good guy. Wrap us up here at Locked On Spurs for the week. Don't know what we're going to be talking about, but likely it would probably be the summer Spurs because the Vegas tournament. Now the real fun begins, for the summer Spurs and so much more. And subscribe to Locked On Sports Today, 24/7 streaming channel, only on YouTube, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. So for the dog himself, Vinnie Vinzetta, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock in this episode of Locked On Spurs.